curses, time restraints. There's only so many hours in a day. Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 41.
Everyone has things they are passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can just get one more person
to join us on our hill to die on.
You went to Disney, though.
Yep, after losing out on going to Disney on spring break, I was able to arrange a day off for me and my wife and my family to go to Disney in May. So yes, we went at the very beginning of May, and it was quite an interesting experience. I was pretty wary of going this time. You know, I was mentioning that one of the things I like about Disney is, since we live so close, I like playing the game of, well, is the weather going to be nice? Waiting until we see what the weather is and then go. Because this time really worried me. Because we had to reserve early because of COVID, and I was watching the weather predictions as they were coming out, and it was pretty rainy on that day. Like, none of the other days on that week were rainy. It's been rainy this past week, but back then, none of the other days were rainy. But that day was predicting some rain. So I was a little bit worried about that. And it was going back and forth, and we could move our Disney tickets around. Because of COVID, they allow you to do that. But we had reserved a hotel to stay down there to make things easier. I found the cheapest hotel I could find.
And I assume the hotel wouldn't let you move your ticket around.
No, the hotel will not let us move that around. And the school won't let us cancel our day off either. I guess probably it would.
They would let you come into work. They wouldn't let you move it to another day.
No, they won't let us move it to another day. So either way, we were going to go down is what we figured. Whether we went into Disney is another question, but we would go down. Yeah, I found a cheap hotel, but it was one of the ones that I'd been looking at before too. So I knew it wasn't going to be a bad hotel. I knew it was going to be something decent. Usually this hotel was more expensive, so I was surprised to find it so cheap. So I booked it because I could, because I was like, ooh, that's a good price. I'm going to book that. So I was pretty pleased. But yeah, the rain was definitely casting a shadow, shall we say, on the thing. So I was a little bit worried about that. As 2 days before, when the hourly forecast starts coming out, looking ahead, I was like, well, it looks like it might start raining in the afternoon. And the level of rain was up and, kept fluctuating. But I was like, okay, rain in the afternoon. Let's try it. We've done rain at Disney before. I mean, it's not necessarily fun, but we could do it. We'll see how it goes. We committed to it. And as the week went on, the rain on the afternoon got lighter and lighter. Still there, but not as downpourish as they were predicting earlier. So that was good. So we got there and we're like, we're going to go. One of the other interesting things is this hotel we stayed at. I mean, I kind of knew this, but I didn't quite understand all the different effects of the different levels. So we have stayed before at an official Disney hotel. And of course, it's a very nice experience. We often stayed at the one that's further away from Disney. So it's not as nice as staying at one of the ones that's right there. And if you're coming from overseas, probably you want to stay at the one that's right there. But since we know Japan and things, we stayed at the one that's further away from Disney, and that worked out well. Being an official Disney hotel definitely has its perks. In fact, one of them is entering the park early, so we're like, oh, that's a really nice perk, which we've never actually done because we've never actually gotten there early. But anyway, it's a nice perk to have, I would think. Then we've stayed at a partner hotel before, which has fairly similar perks. In fact, I think one of them is still getting in early too. I think it also means that you can buy the park tickets at the hotel. There's a handful of other perks too, but the partner hotel seems pretty nice. But this time we stayed at a hotel that wasn't either an official hotel or a partner hotel. And I was curious as to what that would mean. And I didn't quite know, but I knew that this hotel had a bus that would move us to the park, which is pretty nice most times because parking at the hotel is pretty cheap to park our car down there. So driving down, parking our car there works well. Parking at Disney is usually pretty expensive. It's more than I would normally pay for a parking space, but the benefit you get, usually if you drive there for one day and then drive home, that works really well. So it's usually not that bad for what you're paying. You get very good value for what you're paying. But, if we're at a hotel, it's nicer to take the bus. So we got on the bus in the morning and took the bus out to Disney. And I was like, we're passing the bus drop-off spot. And I was realizing in my head, oh, that's for the partner hotel. So I was like, well, where's this bus going to drop us off then? And interestingly, it drives into the parking lot. It like as if they're paying to go in the parking lot. They drive into the parking lot and drop you off at a whole nother section. And it is a little bit further away from the entrance, but not that bad.
That's not.
The biggest thing was that it took longer to get there because they had to go into the parking lot and drive around the parking lot for a while and then drop you off. Also, passing the main bus terminal, then going around and around and around to get to where it's like, so it took a little while to get in, but big deal, whatever. And we had timed it well enough. We got on an early enough bus that we arrived early to the park. Because of COVID, the park was opening at 9, and we got there 8:30ish. So I was like, okay, we'll stand in line for a little bit and wait till we get in.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the surprising things is, when we got to the line, they let us in right away. And I was pretty surprised about that. I was like, okay, they'll let us in right away. But I think the rides don't open till 9. At least the first ride we lined up at didn't open till 9. So I think that's probably what the deal was. They'll let you in to the park, but you really can't do anything until 9, which made sense. So that's fine. We lined up at the first ride. Because the ride hadn't opened, everybody was lining up outside of the ride, which happened to be Pirates of the Caribbean. We hadn't actually done that yet, so we figured, we'll try this ride. It's right here near the entrance. And we could see, there's about, 15 people in front of us, so it's not going to be that long of a wait, so let's get on this ride. So we lined up, and then sure enough, they opened it up and everything. We went right in at 9. So that we waited maybe 5 minutes outside and then, very little inside. So worked out pretty well. Got in our first ride, and we're like, good, low wait. Did that ride, and then started working our way counterclockwise from there. So then going through Tomorrowland and then through Toontown and Fantasyland and working our way around that way. And to our surprise, we waited maybe less than 5 minutes for every ride. I was just shocked and amazed that it was less than 5 minutes. Oh, and also one of the things is we learned going in Christmas time was that we were going to have to start reserving some rides on our phones. And we wanted to see the new Baymax and Beauty and the Beast ride. We wanted to see if we could do both. The priority was Beauty and the Beast, but hey, can we do both or not? And so I had done the research ahead of time. It's like, how do I have to do this? I read through the instructions online. Okay, now I'll be able to do this when we get in. As soon as we got into the park, which is as soon as they scanned our tickets, then I sat there at the entrance reserving those 2 rides right off the bat. And we got Beauty and the Beast for, I forget exactly what it was, but it was still early in the morning. It was like 10:30, something like that. And I was like, well, that'll be it, right? I won't be able to reserve another. But actually, they let me reserve Baymax also. The app let me do both. And I think I was able to do 2. I don't know why I wasn't able to do that in Christmas time. But this time I was able to have about 2 on reserve at a time. So I was able to do Baymax, and that was at about 9:45, something like that. So after we did Pirates, then started going through Tomorrowland, and then Beauty and the Beast and Baymax are pretty much right there. So it was kind of along in that direction anyway, so we did pretty good that way.
Part of the reason for how fast it was, wasn't it a normal school day for a lot of people? Or work day?
Yeah, I generally do like going in May or June. At the beginning of May in Japan is the big Golden Week holiday. So everybody usually has taken that week off of school. So there's usually few people taking off of school right after that week.
So you basically we had just finished Golden Week, and then that's the day that you took.
Right. Yeah, April and May are pretty low. April being the beginning of the school year in Japan, not many people go to Disney. Like, it's usually a low entry time. Middle of May is usually a low entry time, and of course June. Those are pretty good months to go. There's a few days in there to miss, where it might be busy, but those days are pretty good. So,
yeah, because July will start their summer vacation.
And on non-COVID times, those days are generally July is just packed like crazy.
And let's not talk about the heat either.
Oh, it's pretty bad. Yeah, you don't want to go in July ever.
No, don't go in July.
It's a pretty good time to go anyway. Although when we were walking in, the park was already announcing that they were sold to capacity. So I think they must have been pretty low in capacity. Like, whether it's 5,000 or 10,000 people, it's about that. And when I'm talking low in Disney, like, I'm talking 25,000 is generally about where I feel good going. And I'm not often able to go when it's less than 25,000. Occasionally I'll get less than 25,000, but when it gets to 30,000, that's when I start feeling crowded and the lines are too long to go on things.
Yeah.
Being 10,000 is very low. And I think the other interesting thing is there were no foreigners there, right? It's all Japanese people. So one of the things I think too, one of the things we found amazing is that we went on all the fast rides. Like, we went on Space Mountain, for the first time for my daughters, which was a pretty fast ride for them, specifically because they're still pretty young. We went on Splash Mountain, and then they asked me, why are all the rides named Mountain? Because they had already been on Big Thunder Mountain. I said, good question. Like all those rides, we'd never even attempted them because the lines were always like way more than an hour long, like an hour and a half to 2.5 hours long. Like Splash Mountain, I've looked at possibly doing that a few times, but the wait was always over 100 minutes. And it's like, oh, I don't think it's worth waiting 100 minutes for that.
Yeah.
So we went on Haunted Mansion, which I've also never attempted because the wait's always been over 100 minutes. You know, we went on all these rides that, you know, we would never attempt. So because all the lines were so short, we did 31 rides that day.
Oy vey.
Which is, you know, just an astonishing number of rides. I think we'll get lucky if we do 10 to 15 rides in a day, right? We did double that number. It was just unbelievable. And of the 31 rides we took, 26 of them were unique. So we went on 26 unique rides. And we did 8 rides for the first time, 8 unique rides for the first time, and 3 of them are brand new attractions that were there that were just finished being built.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I'm just imagining you like getting off the ride and pulling out like a spreadsheet and being like, yes, this is the first time we've ever been on this one.
No, my daughter, the only reason I have all these stats is because my daughter had, this is an interesting thing. I'm glad you say that because my daughter had sat down with the map that I have from before and she wrote down all the rides that she wanted to do. And I'm looking at this long list of rides and I'm like, there's no way that we're going to do all these rides. Like, you know, continue to dream. But she had 27 rides listed here. And I was like, there's no way we're going to do all these rides.
Did you get to all of them?
We got to all of them and some. So I was like, wow. So that was the thing. She had brought this checklist with her and we opened it up at lunchtime and checked off all the ones we had done by lunch. And then by the time we got back to the hotel in the evening, she brought it out and checked everything off again and then double marked the ones that we had done twice. So the only reason I have these stats is because she had this checklist of rides. And I'm like, you know, I was just laughing. I was like, there's no way we're going to do all those rides. Like I said, put some question marks next to some of them because, you know, if the lines are too long, let's decide which ones we're not going to do. Yeah, we got to all of them. No problem. Like we got all the way around, starting from Pirates, going counterclockwise around the park. We got all the way to Jungle Cruise, which is just next to Pirates, at 4:00 in the afternoon. And then it's like, well, which rides should we do again? I mean, that's just unbelievable. And it's not like we didn't have spare time, too. We stopped for lunch. There was 2 parades that day. We watched both of them. One of them we watched twice because we watched it when the parade started, and then we walked across the park and watched it when it ended. We had a full dinner at a pizza place, and we stayed there for a little while just relaxing. Like, we did a lot of things. Like, just in almost every measure of success, it was successful.
I'm sorry, but all of what you're listing, it just sounds so exhausting to me. I'm like, that just seems like a little too much for me.
Well, these guys have so much energy while we're there, right?
I'm sure.
So Beauty and the Beast. Let's get back to that a little bit. Let's do some of these new rides. They are quite fun. Beauty and the Beast, I had seen a little thing on YouTube about it beforehand because I was like, well, I was trying to figure out which one should we go to, Beauty and the Beast or Baymax first. And Beauty and the Beast seemed a bit more up my daughter's alley. So I was like, we'll try for that first. So we got in the morning with our wait ticket. Actually, I tried to get in a little earlier. The guy's like, no, your ticket doesn't start until 5 more minutes. You got to sit around here and wait for 5 more minutes. I was like, oh my goodness, sure. I will sit around and wait for 5 more minutes. So it was good. We bought some popcorn and we sat around and waited. We got in and they basically show you a movie first on a stained glass window, right? You're watching the stained glass window as it changes, telling you the beginning of the story of Beauty and the Beast. And then they have some very nice animatronics that come out at the end of that movie with Belle coming into the castle and the Beast being on the other balcony. And it's quite fun to watch that. Then you go through a line, which I'm sure if you were actually waiting would be quite fun to sit and look at all the things through the line. But we just walk right through all that stuff. And then you sit in a teacup, which is like a go-kart, basically, a self-driving go-kart that takes you through a bunch of different scenes of the movie. And you pass by a whole bunch of animatronics that are, yet again, pretty great. The stuff they can do with animatronics now is pretty amazing. Like, they have the whole Prince and Belle dancing at the end, and they do some pretty neat things. It was quite a fun ride.
As soon as you said you got in a teacup, I was a little afraid where that one was going.
Ah, you got a teacup and you ride the rapids. No.
No, I was imagining you just spinning around while all this stuff is going on.
Oh, and let me tell you too, I definitely did do the teacup ride. The 31 number is what my daughters did. I didn't do quite all of them. The teacup ride, I sat out. I was like, nope. Because my youngest daughter now is going in as an elementary school student, I don't have to go on the ride with her anymore. So you get to do that one.
Yeah, I was wondering, based upon what you had said last time we talked about amusement parks, what the teacup ride was going to be.
Yep. The roller coasters I did fine. So I do think it's the spinning rides. I can't quite do the spinning rides anymore. The roller coasters I was okay with.
Yeah.
Anyway, yep. So Beauty and the Beast is a very fun ride. The other thing I was wondering too is it is neat to see what they're doing to move more people through these rides at once, right? One of the interesting things is the teacups fit a good number of people, 6. They fit 10 people each teacup, and 6 teacups go on each time through the thing. So you can fit quite a lot of people through these rides all the time.
Well, with COVID, did they actually seat 10, or did they like space out how many people, or just like groups could go on there or something like that?
Yeah, pretty much groups could go. They limited it. Because we were a family of 5, we basically got a teacup to ourselves. No, I'm sorry. The first time, no, there was 2 or 3 people in front of us. There's a back row of 6 and a front row of 4. And I think there was a family of 3 in front of us, and we took up the seats in the back. There are plastic barriers between the rows, and between there's 2 and 2 in the front and 3 and 3 in the back. There's plastic in between those.
Okay. I was just curious because, I mean, I know it's not a roller coaster where you're specifically screaming, but I was just wondering what they were doing for COVID.
Yep. That ride was modified, it did seem. And there were a bunch of other modifications around. Nothing that detracted too much, it seemed to me. Yeah, the roller coasters did have spare seats in between. Yeah, there was always a spare row in between each roller coaster seat.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there were accommodations this time around. So we did that one in the morning. And then, actually, we did Baymax first. And Baymax it's a spinny ride, actually, but it wasn't too bad. I was a little bit worried about going on that ride, but I figured I should try it out. But yeah, that was a pretty fun. It's all about being happy. Oh, you should be happy in Baymax. So it was kind of interesting. After we had done Baymax and Beauty and the Beast, the app said that we couldn't do any more of those again, which was disappointing, right? Because it was like, these are the new rides. We'd love to do them more than once. Of the 2 rides, we're like, we'd like to do Beauty and the Beast again. So we went to Beauty and the Beast pretty much just before closing time to see if they would just let us in. And they did. They just let us in. So that was quite nice. In fact, some of the other rides that day, like Pooh's Honey Hunt and a few other rides, I forget now which ones now, but were reserve only also. But then about halfway through the day, they shut down the reserve only system and said, nope, you can just do them whenever you want to now. So that was nice. I think I did reserve Pooh's Honey Hunt as I saw that it was reserve only. And I reserved the mini attraction, the brand new mini attraction, which is basically a time where you can take a picture with Minnie. I reserved that, not knowing what it was as I reserved it. But hey, we got a picture with Minnie. That's fine.
Yeah.
So my kids did Splash Mountain for the first time. They saw Haunted Mansion for the first time. My youngest daughter thought that was the most interesting ride. I'm not sure I agreed with her, but okay. Haunted Mansion, it's an interesting ride. It's definitely a classic Disney ride, that's for sure.
It's very busy.
Yes, it's very busy. Mm-hmm. We would go into Haunted Mansion, and there was nobody else around us. We'd go through the line, and there was nobody else in the line. You're walking through this huge hallways of potential line, and there's no line there, right? And you walk straight up into the carts. We'd go right in and sit in those cart things that the carts just keep moving in Haunted Mansion. And you go in, and we sat down, and the ride would stop sometimes, as if somebody was having a hard time getting on or off. And I was thinking, that's very interesting. I bet you that happens most of the time on a regular Disney day. But I was like, we're probably one of 10 people on this ride. On this ride that can hold 100 at least. I wonder why the ride is stopping. But quite interesting. Those rides that keep moving, I do think are quite fun. They want you to get on and off as quick as possible so that the ride just keeps going through. It's like Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters, which is a very fun ride. Although I almost wish that ride would stop more often so I could get more points shooting things.
Got to get that high score.
Oh, you do. I did pretty well this time, too. My wife was like, how'd you get such a high score? I was like, you shoot the diamond ones. She's like, oh, next time. And in the end, too, it did drizzle a little bit, but it really only just spit. It was just a little spitting rain, very lightly. And so I had put ponchos in my bag, and we took them out, and we would put them on sometimes between rides, but then the ride people would make you take it off. When you get to a ride, they say, take your poncho off, and then we'd have to put them back in my backpack. So it was nice. We had the ponchos at the ready. I had stuff stored in plastic bags just in case it rained hard, so things couldn't get wet, but really it didn't need it. It just spit just a little bit, and just while we were walking between some rides, and because the lines were so short, almost every line had covers. So by the time you got to the line, you could take the ponchos off and be in dry spots. So it was not a problem at all. To me, it's like you were saying that it seems like a stressful day. I think that's what's amazing to me. We did all these rides and had almost no stress.
See, for me, it's not the stress. It just seems like it's so much that it would be exhausting, not stressful. That's where I would be at.
I think that's the thing, though, because we were just leisurely walked from one ride to the next. And we didn't do every ride, but we did almost every ride. Like, there was definitely a few we skipped. We didn't do Cinderella's Castle this time because you just walk through it, basically. There was a few of those kinds of rides we skipped. But we probably could have, if we had wanted to, checked off every single ride in the park. In almost every respect, it was a very good day. And I said to my daughters, like, this is never going to happen again. We're never going to be able to do this many rides at Disney. It's just not going to happen. It's very interesting to go during COVID time. I guess there's still a lot of risks, but it's a very interesting time to go.
I'm glad that you got to go to all those things that you wanted to. Sounds like a good day.
It was. It was a very fun day. And then we relaxed and came home the next day, Saturday morning, so that worked out well.
Oh, a bit of an update. The last time I talked about this.
Oh, yeah, your tickets.
My tickets. It's like you can read my mind where I was going to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on a bit of a journey with my tickets. I originally bought my ticket this year to go back to America through one of those online services, which I will not mention by name, simply because I don't want to besmirch their name too badly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So my flight was originally with Air Canada that I booked through this other outside service. Well, when Air Canada happened to switch my flight to changing me from a 16-hour journey to a 29-hour journey, I was not happy with this. And then when Air Canada fully canceled the flight to America and I had not yet been put on a new flight, I was understandably a little upset, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I call up Air Canada, and they say, well, I'm sorry, but you booked through this external service, so you got to talk to them. Okay. So I called up the external service, and they offered me a number of options, all of which were complete and total garbage. Most of them required me to have a 6 to 7 hour layover in one location or another. Now, I was just trying to get from Tokyo to the United States, specifically Chicago. Now, I don't know if you know this about Chicago, but it's got a big airport. In fact, it's got an international airport.
But so does Harrisburg, but they only fly to Canada, I'm sure.
Details.
International airports in America. Yeah, sometimes it's just Canada.
Well, you know what? Either way, Chicago has a big one. Yes, it has its issues, but...
And they fly to more than just Canada.
They fly to more than just Canada. In fact, ANA usually has a direct flight from Narita to Chicago. So what I ended up doing was I talked to the service and told them that all of the options they gave me were, how to put this, completely, totally, and absolutely unacceptable. So they offered me an option that I could cancel my ticket and get a full refund, which I was pleasantly surprised by because I thought they were just going to give me a credit. But apparently due to COVID times, they are giving full refunds, or maybe it was due to the fact that the flight that it was actually through, which was Air Canada, was offering those full refunds and they had to honor what the air service was doing. So maybe it was something like that. Either way, I got a full refund for it, in which case I took that money and immediately turned around and went to ANA, which has been very reliable in the past. It was a little bit more expensive because I was ordering at a much later point than I usually do, but the cost was almost insignificant compared to the ease in which things went and the comfort in which I am going to have, especially given that this is going to be a direct flight from Tokyo to Chicago.
Mm-hmm. You mean no 7-hour layovers?
No
here?
7-hour layovers, no turning this trip from a 14-hour flight to a 29-hour extravaganza. All that to say, I am very happy that this has been solved. I do still have a couple of things that I need to work out before I go. I have to get a test 72 hours before I get on that plane, so I have to make sure that all those appointments are taken care of and set up. But other than that, I am looking forward to getting home, seeing the family who I have not seen in a while. It's been a while. I usually go home every Christmas, and due to COVID, really haven't been able to be home for about a year and a half now, almost 2 years. Yeah, year and a half, almost 2 years now. Or at least that's how it feels.
Yes.
And I am looking forward to being able to see my family once again. And I believe they're probably looking forward to seeing me. I mean, as much as one can look forward to seeing me.
I think they probably are. I think you have a good bit.
But yeah, that has gone very well. It only took me sternly talking to a bunch of people on the phone for about 2 hours to get all this worked out.
Good. 2 hours. Yeah, it's a little long, but at least it's worked out.
It was definitely a little long. It was aggravatingly long, especially because most of that conversation was me being offered other options like, oh, well, we could send you through San Francisco and you have only one 6-hour layover.
You could send me to the island of Hawaii or island of Guam for 2 days, and then I'll continue on my trip. Sorry.
Yeah, no, they didn't offer that one.
Too bad.
Strangely.
With hotel coupons. Sorry.
I think the thing that annoyed me the most was most of what the external company presented all these other options as if they had been doing a great favor to me. And I think that's the part that annoyed me the most because in my mind, I'd already paid you. And you're giving me the shaft and not just kicking me while I'm down. You're kicking me while I'm down and then asking me to thank you for it.
Sometime we should have an airline horror stories one too, perhaps.
Most of my horror stories I think I've already told on this show.
Did I tell you one time we went to Korea?
Mm-hmm.
And we were going for my sister-in-law's wedding
Mm-hmm.
in Korea. And she had helped me find the tickets because she lives here in Japan too. She had helped me find the tickets in a very cheap airline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of these really like JetBlue kind of airlines. It saves a lot of money, skimps on a few things. You have to pay for bags, things like that.
You have to pay for seats.
You have to pay for seats, but then you have to pay for everything else too. Nothing comes with it.
Oh, no, I was just thinking that you bought your ticket and then you had to pay if you wanted to actually sit down.
Oh, no. Not this one in this case anyway. At least this one you got the seat when you reserved. But and we were only going for a few days, so I think we only had like one checked bag over the 5 of us. It's not bad at all. Anyway, I don't remember what the deal was, but I think it was a Japanese site I was reserving through. But like the first 3 times I went through it, it failed. I don't know why. Like I had, and I'm putting in tons of information. Like I'm putting in my name, my wife's name, my kids' names, all of our passport information, all of our genders, all of our ages, all of our blah, 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 all of this stuff, right? And I'm doing it for 5 people each time. And it failed like the first 2 times. And the third time I'm like, racing through this. Boom, boom, boom. Get it all in. Hit the go button. Like, great. Finally. Got it. All right. We get to the airport that day. And the lady says, the name on your wife's ticket doesn't match your wife's name. I'm like, what are you talking about? And, probably because I was racing through things so fast, I had written my wife's name with my last name being Rudd, because she's Korean, she actually hasn't changed her last name, and she probably won't throughout our marriage because the Korean tradition is to not change your last name. So her last name is still Kim. And probably because I was racing through and writing everybody's name as Rudd, I wrote Rudd for my wife's name. And I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? And she's like, well, we'll stamp the ticket and let you move through, but you could get stopped at immigration or anything along the way, and you might have to solve the problem there. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine, we'll see what happens. And I was like, oh, this is so disappointing. We get to immigration in Japan and to see if the guy will let us out of the country. And I had prepared all the passports with all of our boarding passes and all of our re-entry cards, because we're permanent residents, we have to have re-entry cards, and all of our residence cards in each passport, all organized in the picture page, right? It's all there. All 5 passports have their boarding pass, re-entry card, and residence card, all ready to go for the guy, right?
Mm.
So he pulls out the top 2 passports. Me and my oldest daughter happen to be those 2 passports. He pulls them off the top of the stack. He takes the re-entry card from my passport and then opens up my daughter's passport and scans her name in. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, what did you do? And I don't remember how he realized he made the mistake, but I filled everything out. And then he starts stapling the re-entry card, my re-entry card, and my daughter's passport. And I think he realized, at some point he realizes his mistake. And then his solution to this was to spread all 5 people's things out, take everything out of everything, and start organizing it again. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened? What happened? This is very surprising to me, because people in Japan are usually very detail-oriented and, don't make any mistakes like this. They're very good at organizing, especially people in airports like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got their procedure down. But this guy who pulls the re-entry card from mine and then puts it in my daughter's, I was like, what are you doing? It's got all my information on it. And at that time when I was realizing this, I'm like, I need not worry about my wife's name being wrong on the boarding pass at this point. There's nothing he's going to do. He is super apologetic right now. If he discovers that my wife's name is wrong, he can't say a thing. That's not going to be a problem. He's going to let us right through. As soon as he sorts out his mistakes, we're going right through this line. Not a problem at all. And I don't even know if he realized that my wife's name was wrong in the boarding pass, because, by the time he got to my wife's passport, he had already spent 15 minutes cleaning up his first mistake. So then once we got through the gate, I called up the airline, and the airline's like, well, they let you through, so it's only the way back now, and the way back is in Korea, so they're going to understand your mistake, no problem. So I was like, okay, phew. All right, we're going to be fine. Yeah, that was quite interesting.
Well, at least you made it.
Yeah, we made it to my sister-in-law's wedding, no problem. That was pretty hilarious. So we did have to wait 15 minutes for him to sort out whose card goes with what, which was pretty annoying. But at the same time, at least we didn't have to buy another plane ticket for my wife with the right name on it. Whew.
Yeah, that would have been a nightmare.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there at the line, I'm realizing, okay, the worst case scenario is we're buying a plane ticket on the spot. And really, in the whole grand scheme of things, it's really, it'll be kind of expensive, but it won't be that bad. There is no way I'm going to Korea without my wife right now.
Yeah.
However much it costs, we're doing it.
Today, I want to tell you about Phoenix Wright. Have I told you about Phoenix Wright before?
I don't think so.
Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney is an excellent game. So the basic premise of this is you are an attorney, a defense attorney specifically.
Ooh, it's got its own fandom.
Oh, it definitely has a fandom. So Phoenix Wright, you are a defense attorney, and the entire game is you defending various people from being accused of murder, because for some reason it's always murder. And you have to defend them by finding clues, because apparently that's something an attorney does in this world. The attorney goes out and finds clues and talks to people and tries to gather evidence, because the detective can't do that for you. Why would that happen? And also, in this crazy world, trials are only ever, I think, 3 days long. You have to decide what is happening. Either they're innocent or guilty within 3 days, or it's done. It is a bananas crazy legal system, but it is a great game simply because it's all about solving puzzles and things like that. So you listen to the things that people are saying based on what you learned from your investigation, and you have to point out contradictions and things that don't fit and present evidence to prove them wrong. Phoenix Wright specifically has the thing that he always does is he will point and yell out objection to everything. And so that's one of the things that people will always remember. So, for example, the very first game opens with you defending your child. Oh, by the way, I should warn you that there are lots of bad puns in this game, like really bad puns.
Okay.
So your first trial, you are defending your childhood friend who has somehow gotten accused of murder, and your childhood friend whose name is Larry Butts, who the judge always gets his name wrong and refers to him as Harry. I'll let you fill that in. And so the entire time you're trying to defend Larry by pointing out various things that people are saying that can't be true because of this piece of evidence or this piece of evidence. And every single time when you are solving these murders, it just so happens that one of the people who is either one of the witnesses or somehow loosely involved in your investigation is also the real murderer. Mm-hmm. Happens every single time that you're doing these investigations. So, for example, the guy who is accusing Larry, like one of the witnesses, is actually the guy who killed the first person. And that's shown in a cutscene, so I'm not giving anything away.
So in some ways, it's a matter of eliminating some of the characters and saying, well, it's not him, it's not him, it's not him.
It's more along the lines of, I mean, yes and no, because the main thing that you have to do to figure it out is you have to figure out what is being said that is incorrect. And how can I prove it using what pieces of evidence that I've learned? I will, however, say that they also add some spooky spiritualism stuff because your assistant is a spirit medium who can basically become possessed by the spirits of the dead. So, you know, that's handy when you're dealing with murders. Mm-hmm. You have a spirit medium who you're like, yo, who killed him? Mm-hmm. They don't use that too much. They use it occasionally. But it's a fun game. It is silly and lovely all at the same time. Oddly written characters, but still like heartwarming characters. You grow to love these characters regardless of everything else. And yes, this is a game that is on the Switch and the PlayStation and several other systems.
There seems to be a few of them, right?
There's a lot of them. Oh, also, in different countries, just so you know, the names will be translated to something else. Because I said there were lots of puns, they will actually change what the names are to deal with the different translation issues. So, for example, in Japanese, his family name is Naruhodo.
Meaning, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's something like that. Because his name is Phoenix Wright, you can imagine how many puns they make on Wright. It's all things like that. Like, every single name is an incredibly bad pun. And it is wonderful. It is a game that it's got a lot of heart, but it also doesn't take itself so seriously that it's not willing to crack a joke at itself.
Cool.
I highly recommend giving Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney a shot.
Pick 2 this time. We decided we would do pick 2.
I believe we said difficult or hard jobs.
Because this guy he's got a difficult job where he is. And he's very separated where he is. So anyway, we decided we would look back in our lives and pick 2 difficult or hard jobs we have.
We have or have had?
Or have had. We have had. So unless your current job is hard, Ryan.
I don't think my current job's hard.
Not according to what you told me recently, but you know, you could always be hiding things.
I would never tell my boss that my job is hard.
Wait, you're telling me it's easy? I can give you more work.
No, please don't. Yeah, no, I'm just going to leave it there.
You're going to run away from that hole? Stop digging and run away.
There is no way I can not dig myself deeper with anything I say. But no, I honestly, I think I have an appropriate amount of work at my current job.
Good save, yep.
Yeah, thank you. So, am I going first this time, or are you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, I will say one of the more difficult jobs I have had was there was a period of time where I worked at a homeless shelter. Now, working at this homeless shelter was good. It was fulfilling. It was, as you can expect, not great paying, but it was a good job. I oftentimes worked late shifts for this job, and I was in college at the time. So I would work usually somewhere around the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. And then I would go home, go to sleep, and wake up in time for my noon or 1 o'clock classes. So basically, I had the weirdest sleep schedule in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I would say that this was a hard or difficult job was not the workload, not anything that was expected of me, because mostly I was there to help out the guys who were living in the homeless shelter and just help them in whatever they needed, fill out paperwork and make sure everybody got in on time, because we weren't exactly living in the safest of neighborhoods. It was an all right neighborhood, but the reason why this job was difficult was because the homeless shelter was chronically understaffed. We had a pretty significant turnover rate, and the difficulty I also had was it was also connected with the church that I went to at the time. And I was volunteering at that church a lot, and so there were many times where I was working long hours at the homeless shelter and then immediately going and volunteering at the church on Sunday morning. And only then, after the church service finished, would I finally be able to go and get some sleep. And I was able to keep this up for a while until a few more people left that job, and I ended up working several double shifts in a row where I would be working not from 10 to 6 a.m., but from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., 2 or 3 days in a row,
Mm-hmm.
while being a college student. And quite frankly, I could not keep up doing that job, working those kind of hours and keeping up with my college courses. So I had to choose one or the other. I had to choose between passing my courses, which I was already paying a significant amount of money for, or being able to continue working at this homeless shelter. And at the end of the day, I had to choose my college.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, homeless shelters you can always do after you get your education also.
Yep. And at the end of the day, it was so much work going into helping at the homeless shelter and everything else that I had going on that I would have straight up not been getting my work done. I would have been failing my classes. And when you were dropping $25,000, $30,000 a year to go to these classes and you're not getting anything out of them because you're too tired to even think, it helps no one in the long run. It doesn't help the guys who you were helping temporarily at the homeless shelter while they were trying to get on their feet. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone. So while I thought it was a good job and I made a lot of really great connections with the guys who were there, I could not physically keep it up. I was working like 3 double shifts in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that almost every week for a couple of weeks in a row before I just started breaking down. Like, I was getting sick. because my body could not keep up with that amount of work with uneven sleeping schedules and trying to keep up with my college load.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That was probably one of the hardest jobs I had for many reasons.
Interesting. Well, I think, again, also, I have not had that many hard jobs in my life. So for my hard job, I mentioned earlier that my uncle has a farm, and we used to go frequently there. And I worked there for at least 2 summers, and I don't exactly remember which summers it was, but I think it was early high school, maybe 9th, 10th grades, something like that. I know late in high school I had another job, so I think it must have been early high school. So 9th or 10th grade, I went, and it is an hourly job. And one of the summers was more rainy than it usually is. And I think this was the second year I went, so maybe this was the 10th grade year, possibly 11th grade, but anyway, something mid-high school. And it was extraordinarily rainy, and I would get paid hourly. So because it rained often, we didn't get to do the haying that they normally do. And it's pretty devastating for the farm, too, because the farm has a lot of grass it needs to cut down. And if it keeps raining, then the grass can't dry out and be prepared for the cows. It's not that they're going to run out in the farm, but if they don't get a certain amount of hay in the barn by the time the grass dies, then they're just not going to have enough food for the cows. So they were getting antsy too. So there was a break in the rain for a little bit, and the rain stopped in such a way that they could cut the grass quick, let it dry out a bit, although I think it drizzled in between, which is pretty bad because then the grass doesn't ever completely dry and it can start rotting because they have to cut it and they have to let it lay for a day or two so that the grass dries out. And I think in that day or two it drizzled. And then the next day was going to be sunny. So they called me up and they said, all right, we are going to start haying, as soon as milking's done. As soon as the guys get milking done, we're going to start baling the hay. So can you come right away early in the morning? So I said, sure, no problem. So that day, they must have gotten ready at 7 or 8 or something like that because they milk early. So I met them at the field at 7. We baled and baled and baled, and we baled the whole field. I think we did 3 fields. I think that's what it was too. I think because of the rain, they had cut 3 fields of hay down, and we baled all 3 fields in one day. So it took the whole day. And I think half the crew had to go back to do the afternoon, early evening milking too. So, but because I wasn't doing the milking part, I stayed. But the sun had gone down and we were even haying at night, which is very difficult, at least back then anyway, because it's not like the tractors have great headlights, but they still have, so I think it was possible, but it gets dangerous, especially because you're not sure what you're going to run over or run into or things like that. But we got all 3 fields baled and put the hay in the wagons, and all the wagons pushed into the barn because, again, they only have a certain number of wagons, and they have to store the hay somewhere, and of course they have to store it in dry places because I think it rained again the next day. So they have to push all that hay into the barn, or into some barns, into barns and places so that it doesn't get rained on. So you either have to unload the wagons or get the wagons pushed into barns. And they had some places where they could store big wagons of hay. I mean, still, you could store some of it in the place where they actually store the hay. Since the barns were empty, you can push the wagons into that barn. But they had some other places they could do it too. So I think they got it all in. That hay wasn't great because it was still definitely damp. So it is dangerous to be damp in the barn. But it did work out, but that was a really long day of haying. And I was super tired at the end of it. But it was worth it for them, and I'm glad we got it all done. But I really enjoyed that job. Haying was pretty fun. I did milking sometimes, but I wasn't a regular. And, farming is a really hard line of work. I'm glad I'm not doing farming in general, but man, it's a really hard line of work. Milking every morning, right? There's no weekends. No, the cows need to be milked every morning. Vacations are hard because that means you have to have people come in. Yeah, it's a hard line of work. So I'm glad that I got a taste of it, but man, people that do that every day, I have a lot of respect for them.
I've told you before, but I am a city boy. I have no actual farming experience, really.
Mm. Well, and I know my uncle's farm is like a mid-sized farm, I guess. Like, not everything's fully automated in terms of the cow milking and stuff anyway. A lot of it's still manual, but I mean, there's still things that help them get it done quicker. A lot of, things that are put in to make it more efficient. But it's not like one of those things where the cows walk in on one side and by the time they walk out the other side, they're fully milked. It's nothing like that. And I think those systems, the cows run through all day because every cow is on its schedule. But yeah, this farm's not like that. They come in 2 times a day, get milked, and go back out again. I think they've got about 80 that get milked twice a day. So I think they usually do milking with about 3 to 4 people. And they get it done in about an hour, I think. But it's every day. And then you got to clean the barn. You got to fill it up with hay. You got to clean it. I mean, hour of milking. And then, of course, there's everything else that goes along with it. But anyway, a lot of work. I could be getting those numbers wrong, but those guys did an amazing job when I was there. And I was glad to help with haying sometimes. But lots of stuff to do. And haying is not too bad because normally you're doing one field in 3 to 4 hours, something like that. And then you do another field another day. So it's nice and spread out. For me, being in high school, it was kind of nice building some muscle doing that. Being the skinny kid I was, I at least got a little bit of muscle. I'm not sure I ever got a lot, but definitely got a little bit more than I had. So that was kind of nice for me. Got nice calluses. But my cousins were always super strong. You could watch them throw bales like really far. I never got there. I would build nice steps for myself so that I could go up a few steps and then throw the bale on top of that one. Since I didn't have the strength to throw bales, like 9 bales high like they could. Like, oh, wow. So, anyway.
Well, okay, so in thinking about my next one, since we started talking about jobs, I've been rotating a couple in my brain. Because, for example, the 3 jobs that I was thinking of, there was my first official teaching job, which was very rough. When you walk into your first day as a newly licensed teacher and you're greeted by students throwing dictionaries at each other and a desk flying across the room, and that just being the way that things were accepted at that school, that was an experience. There were a lot of issues at that school that I'd like to not dwell on. Then there's the first time that I taught in Japan, which was not as an official teacher, kind of. I taught as an English support teacher, basically. As long as you have a bachelor's degree, there were companies that would hire you, and you would teach in Japanese public schools. And that was a great job. But the reason I would say that that was a hard job is because of the way in which you were taken care of. And by that I mean you would receive a very low pay, an almost unlivable pay for 10 months out of the year. Well, technically, you would receive it for 9 months out of the year, and 2 extra months would be given half pay. And then 1 month you would receive no pay. So you were given a unlivable wage and then only paid for 10 months of the year's worth. I think I've told you this before, but during the summer months, I would have to decide which days I was eating. I didn't have a choice about not paying my bills because I would potentially get kicked out of my housing, and then if I got kicked out of my housing, I'd get kicked out of the country. And I couldn't do that. So I had to pay all my bills, which just meant that I had to save money somewhere, so I saved it on food. There are those jobs. But then there was the job where, for example, I was a barista for many years. And that was just stress. That's just pure stress. If you've ever done a food service job where if you don't get the thing out within 2 minutes of the person walking out the door, then you were potentially being written up. That is what it was like to be a barista in some of the locations that I worked as a barista in. I've worked as a barista for 3.5 total years, I think. Maybe 4. give or take some time based on bits and pieces here and there. And I honestly, I don't know if it's the not being able to eat or the complete chaos being accepted or the absolute stress of needing to get everything perfect and out fast enough for everybody as a barista. I'm not sure which one was more stressful and more anxiety causing. Actually, I probably can tell you which one was the most anxiety causing, but all three were tough.
Mm-hmm.
All three were very difficult.
Yeah, I think I haven't had too many hard jobs in my life, which is kind of a blessing probably. But I can tell you about one of the harder experiences, something that fits more with isolation like this movie does. But I think when I came to Japan as a student in college, I came the spring semester of my sophomore year, and I think that experience was hard in some ways. I was able to weather it pretty well, but I think the hardest part, was feeling isolated here. I didn't come over with any friends. The semester that I came, I happened to be the only student doing the program that semester, which is a very odd thing, they said. Usually the average is 3, and the fall semester of that year had 6. So they were going from a fall semester that had a lot to a spring semester that had only 1. So there probably should have been 2 other people in the program with me, but there wasn't any. So nobody else was in the same boat I was. There were some other international students from Europe somewhere. They were in their second term, or at least second term, possibly even second year, doing a program in Japan. So there were other international students, but they were from Europe. They spoke English. I think they were from Germany, but they did speak English to me a little bit. But because they were doing another program, they weren't in my classes at all. So I did hang out with them a little bit, but not too much. So I did kind of feel alone in a lot of things, which I tend to do okay with. I was able to do a lot of photo organizing, and photo organizing is a very calming thing for me. I think one of the things that worked in my favor was that when I first arrived here, we had done a tour of Japan for the first 2 weeks I was here, which was very nice. It was a very great experience. We stayed up in Sapporo, but we traveled all the way down through Tokyo, all the way down to Hiroshima, and then kind of worked our way back up, doing the big sites along the way. So we went to Hiroshima, then we went to Himeji, and then we went to Kyoto, and then Tokyo, and then back up to Sapporo. So I had taken a whole lot of pictures through that trip, and I was able to get them all printed because they're all filmed back then. And then I was having a lot of fun organizing them and scanning them and putting them up on my website at the time so that people could see where I was. So I had a whole lot of fun doing that. And I think that helped a lot. Another thing that helped me through some of the isolation was there was a fairly vast collection of movies that the college I was at had. And they had, of course, places where you could watch those movies. So I would watch the movies in those places. That was kind of nice. And my host family had kind of like the HBO of Japan. It's called Wow Wow here. They had a subscription to Wow Wow, and I was able to watch movies there as well. So I definitely had places to connect to English, which was helping me out. And I think the other thing was by about halfway through, I was getting to a point where I could actually do some talking. Of course, I was nowhere near fluent, but at least I was able to get some of my feelings across, or some information across. Maybe not as much feelings. Let me say it that way, because I'm probably not at the point where I'm getting feelings across now either.
I can tell you right now, I can still get information across. Feelings,
yeah,
nothing more than feelings.
I did actually see the fact that what I was learning in class would take about 2 weeks, and that's when I was actually able to speak it out loud. Like I would see myself using the concepts I learned 2 weeks prior in actual speaking, which was very encouraging. I was noticing, I was like, oh wow, I can actually see this happening. I mean, not to say that I wasn't learning it right away, but it wasn't sinking in until about 2 weeks later, and then I was able to start using those grammars or those things. So that was pretty encouraging at the time. So, and I was studying too, right? But I did find some Japanese friends at the college. I joined the track club and the international club. I don't know if you're allowed to join too. Probably not really in Japan. But I joined both. International club was kind of a default. I think it's default because they want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
So I was automatically in that club. Of course, Japan, most of these clubs are like drinking clubs in university. Track club definitely had another thing going for it, but the international club was definitely more of a drinking club. So I did that a little bit. Not the drinking part, but I went on the things a little bit. So anyway, I was able to connect a little bit, but I definitely felt the isolation here. And I definitely enjoyed my time. I do wonder what it would have been like if there would have been other people in the program with me. I kind of wish that had been the case. I wish that there had been somebody else in the program, in the Japanese language program that I was taking. It was pretty intensive, and my teachers weren't bad, but I do wonder if I would have been able to get a bit more out of them if I had somebody to practice with right away, or somebody learning the same things as I was right away. Not that I feel gypped at all, but I think it was an unfortunate situation that worked out.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed my host family. They were nice. Sometimes I wish there was a little bit more there in terms of my program, having someone else along. But yeah, I enjoyed my time, but it was definitely isolating.
Yeah. Explain to our listeners what you're subjecting me to.
I found something. This is pretty funny. So we've talked about Calpis in the past, and Calpis is a white milky drink. We forced Dan Morin to drink it back when we had our episode with him.
And once again, just before you question what we're saying, it is Calpis, Calpis.
Yes. In America, they call the brand Calpico because, Calpis probably doesn't really fly well in America.
Yeah, because it sounds like you're saying something else.
And it is a white milky drink, fairly sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And this drink is a variation of that, apparently. And it's called Calpis Light Blue, which is funny because it still looks pretty white. But then underneath the light blue, it's got pictures of a grape and a lemon, which green grapes and lemon, which neither of them are light blue. So I just think it's hilarious that it's called light blue. The drink is still white, and then it's got pictures of green grapes and lemon.
Yeah, I'm currently trying to figure out what it's saying on the rest of the bottle.
Yeah.
Because it just says, like, clean and light sweetness.
Lots of something.
Squeezed grapes and lemon.
Okay, lots of squeezed grapes and lemon, is that what it says?
Yeah.
So maybe this will be flavorful, but I do wonder where they get the blue. Where does blue come from?
Clearly, somebody doesn't know what color grapes are.
It could actually be that because they do call a lot of things that are teal, they call them blue.
Oh, yeah.
I would lean on calling that green.
For example, when you are talking about, like, what color light do you go on when you're driving?
Mm-hmm. Yep. The go light in Japan is called blue.
Yep.
When in reality, they color it more teal here than in America.
But it's still green.
Yeah, it's still greenish. I would consider it green, but they do call it blue.
Oh.
So, you might be right there. Of course, the bottle is blue. Like, they know what sky blue is.
Yeah. I'm not saying they don't understand what blue is, but I'm just trying to figure out, where does the blue come from?
Ooh, interestingly, it's got 20% fruit juice. Did you see that at the bottom?
Yes, I saw that. Oh, and it's got a little bit of sediment, too.
Oh, does it? Oh,
at least mine does.
Yeah, you're right. Mine does, too. Yeah, we can shake this because it's not carbonated.
Yeah.
Well, let's find out what it's like.
Let's just try it, because otherwise we're just going to talk about where does the word blue come from. It smells interesting.
Yeah, very grape. Wow. Not bad, but...
Okay, so I'm going to attempt to describe this. So, at certain shops around here, you can get carbonated grape juice. And I'm not talking about, like, purple grape juice. I'm talking about, like, clear grape juice. So you take out the carbonation, and then you mix it with Calpis. So it tastes basically like a white grape juice mixed with Calpis.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I am not tasting any lemon, but that's basically what I'm tasting.
Yeah, I don't taste much lemon either, but I agree. Actually, in the 99 yen stores here, I used to drink something called muscat juice, which I guess muscat's probably another term for green grape, I guess, right? But I used to drink a sweet muscat juice from the 99 yen store when I was still single and didn't read the label. and find out how much sugar that thing had. But anyway, it's like that flavor of grape. Yeah, you're right. Not the purple grape flavor, the green grape flavor. But it does taste watered down with Calpis.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that really helps the taste, the Calpis flavor. I think the green grape is actually a pretty good flavor. But I think, it got watered down with the Calpis.
The Muscat family of grapes includes 200 grape varieties. Their colors range from white to yellow to pink to near black.
Oh, to near black, too.
Yeah. So I assume, though, that probably this is more of the white-yellow range of grapes.
Yeah, it says green. Actually, it says white grape.
Does it?
In the tapuri line?
You are asking me to read kanji? We've talked about this. My kanji reading is subpar at best.
I think that's white, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that looks white to me.
White grape.
Yep.
And lemon.
Yep, that is shiro. Yep, that is white grape. So specifically, we are talking about white grape flavored Calpis.
I generally like the Calpis flavor.
That makes one of us.
And I definitely like the white grape flavor.
Yeah. I will regularly get white grape juice if I am dining out at a specific restaurant and oftentimes get juice from their stores.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like them together.
No, they are not good together. I'm not like gagging and dying like I was with some of the other drinks that we had, but I can't give this above a 3.
I was thinking 4. Just beneath failing is what I was thinking. If failing is 5, just beneath failing, I was going to say 4.
I could say 3.5, maybe 4 if you pushed me, but maybe 3.5. I'm not happy with it.
I think I might like it a little bit better than you. I think that's probably true.
Yeah. I feel like it had potential with the white grape juice, but the Calpis flavor just made it no.
Because I'm probably coming from a position where I like both flavors originally, I just feel like they water each other down. Yeah.
I am about a fourth of the bottle through. I will probably get maybe to a third before I give up on this.
Yeah, I'm already half through. It is more acceptable to me.
It is not acceptable to me, so I'm going with a 3 for me.
I'll be able to finish it, so a 4 is fine for me, yeah.
So let's try to improve this with our Kit Kat time.
Yeah, I have a little bit of hope for this. We'll see how it actually works out. But I found maple Kit Kats.
Yeah, I say Kit Kat time. I mean, we are talking about like general snacks. It just so happens that Kit Kats tend to have tons of flavors that we just cannot run out of these flavors.
Yeah, apparently. These Kit Kats have fun paintings on them. I'm not sure where that comes from.
They have flamingos on mine.
Yeah, I've got leaves and camels. So I don't think they have anything to do with the maple part, but that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I have high hopes for this.
Yes.
There's actually a maple melon pan in the supermarket that I go to. And it's delicious. I love that. I get that every once in a while. So let's see. If it's anything like that Japanese maple flavor,
yeah,
I have high hopes for this.
But yeah, maple Kit Kat. Let's see.
They're light brown and very tan colored.
Yeah,
I like it. It's very sweet. Of course. I always say that with Kit Kats, I guess, right?
I just accept that you're going to say it at this point.
I guess I got to stop saying it. I think the maple flavor, I almost wish it was a little bit stronger.
Yeah, the maple is a little too subtle. Because it tastes like they mixed maple with like a white chocolate.
Yeah, maybe. It's a very good maple flavor. I do like it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a very good maple flavor. It's just a little too subtle. The white chocolate flavor just overwhelms it just a touch.
Especially on the first taste. In the aftertaste, it's a little better, but I wish it was stronger in the first taste.
Yeah. So I'm very happy with this.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't think it's outstanding as some of our other ones have been, but I think it's pretty good.
No.
Yeah, we had 2 in a row that were excellent. Was it peach and...
I think it was either the peach and ume.
Sakura too.
No, it was the passion, the peach, and the sakura. The ume was okay, if I remember right.
Yes, I think you're right.
Or it was good, but it wasn't as good as the other ones. Yeah, because the sakura one had a cinnamon taste.
Yes, the sakura one was very good. I remember that. Yeah, I mean, I think this is maybe a 7, maybe still just behind ume, perhaps.
Yeah, I would say it's up there, but it's not quite as good as those 4. And it's not as bad as, say, strawberry and sparkling wine.
Yeah.
That was a rough one to start on.
Really, these have been doing pretty good. We'll see how we go further ahead here. But
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what banana caramel was like.
anyway, I liked it. And I'm drinking my Calpis again, and I enjoy it. I don't think I'll buy it again. So, not 5, but I'm good with 4 on that.
Nope, it's a 3, and I'm going to drink my water.
Sounds good.
So, for the main media today, what did you bring for me?
I had Ryan watch a movie that must have come out while I was in Japan, because I heard nothing about it, and all of a sudden it was on cable. And one of the things I do is I record the movies off cable that are sci-fi-ish, generally speaking. If it's sci-fi-ish, I'll record it. Although I've gotten burnt a little bit on that, so I've hemmed that down back to saying, well, it's got to be at least rated 7 on IMDb, or, it's got to be rated decently in some of my media services before I record it.
You mean you didn't Santa versus the Martians?
Yeah, that one. Or, well, I think that really disappointed me once is I recorded AI, the one with Haley Joel Osment, and I was like, oh, so disappointing, that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't talk about that one.
This came out in 2009.
2009, okay, yeah, since I've been here. I had not seen any press about this at all, and all of a sudden it was on cable, so I recorded it, and I was very pleasantly surprised. But this movie is called Moon. It stars Sam Rockwell as the main character.
So, as always, we are going to go full into spoiler territory with this movie. So, if you have not yet seen it, I recommend that at this point in the episode, you stop the episode, go watch the movie, and join us back when you're ready. However, if you've already seen it and it's just been a long time, we will provide you with a short summary just to get you caught up so you can be involved in the discussion. So in the movie Moon, Sam Bell is the sole member of a 3-year contract work dispatch to the moon by Lunar Industries to harvest helium-3. During those 3 years, the communication satellite had gone down, and so his only conversation partner was Gertie, a robot at his station. As he approaches the end of his 3-year stint, many things start to seem a little strange. He begins to see things, experiencing pains that he's never felt before. But Sam puts them out of his mind, until, of course, one time while he is seeing things, he gets into an accident and runs one of the rovers into the harvester. When Sam wakes up, he's in the infirmary and is asked if he remembers anything about the accident. When he says no, he is told by Gertie to rest and recover, as there might be some trauma. Later, after leaving the infirmary, he notices that Gertie is talking to Earth live. When he asks Gertie about it, he says no, the satellite's down, it couldn't have been live. Later, Sam realizes that one of the rovers is not moving and goes to investigate it. Gertie says no, he shouldn't go, that he needs to rest and recover, but after some sabotage and a few underhanded tricks, he gets into another rover and goes to check out the rover accident, where he discovers Sam. That is, another Sam. It's revealed that there are 2 Sams, and when they try to figure out which, if any of them, are the real Sam, the older Sam, the one who was recovered from the rover, has been there on the moon for almost 3 years, and the new Sam had only just arrived. They bicker and argue and try to figure out what has happened and what is going on, and finding other stations which they believe are blocking the signal out so they can't communicate to Earth. The Sams also eventually find a trapdoor which leads to a cellar where they find more and more Sams waiting to be woken up. The older Sam seems to also be getting sicker and sicker, coughing up blood, losing teeth and hair. He grabs a communicator, drives out beyond where the blocks were, and calls home. Calls his wife, only to find out that she's been dead, and been dead for years. And that there's another Sam there, taking care of their daughter. It seems to have been a very long time. Having heard all this, he returns, and the new Sam has decided on a plan. A team is coming to collect the old Sam to make sure that the new Sam hadn't discovered all this. Well, the new Sam says, well, let's wake up a newer Sam, put him in the rover, and send the old Sam back to Earth through some less than standard means. But the old Sam says no. He won't make it. He has to be put back in the rover himself, and the new Sam gets out using the pod for the helium-3, but not before wiping Gertie's memory, on Gertie's suggestion, and redirecting the harvester into the signal-blocking towers. The movie ends with some broadcasts sounding off as if the new Sam has made it back to Earth and had been revealing to the world what Lunar Industries was doing, creating clones of Sam all along. Was that enough?
That was good. That was good.
Oy. It was trying to explain all that.
And keep the mystery, right?
Yeah. Oy vey.
So, what did you think, Ryan? First things first, what'd you think?
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting is the best way to put it, I think.
Okay.
I had figured out that he was a clone earlier than they revealed it, first of all.
Oh, earlier than they revealed. So before even the first Sam had an accident, you think?
When this first Sam had an accident and he woke up in the infirmary, I was like, oh, this is a new Sam.
Well, and part of it is because I was realizing that the bandage isn't on the new Sam right off the bat, right?
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I was just like, oh, yeah. As soon as he woke up, I was like, this is a new Sam. This is the direction it's going. So at the beginning of the movie, because he had been spending the 3 years in isolation, I had been thinking to myself, oh, this is going to be a movie about him going like space mad or something like this. But no, it definitely took a different direction. I also thought Gertie was going to go full H.A.L.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Which I was pleasantly surprised that they didn't go down that route. Although the difficulty, I will say, is unfortunately, Gertie is voiced by Kevin Spacey.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, everything that Kevin Spacey has ever touched is right now...
Yeah, somewhat spoiled, right?
Yeah, somewhat. Somewhat is putting it pretty lightly.
Yeah, it is spoiled. I did see this first before that all came out.
Well, it came out in 2009, so...
So that hadn't been spoiled for me yet.
That might have shaped a little bit of my mind, because I was expecting the Kevin Spacey Gertie robot to go full evil.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to say that the movie itself is determined by the actor's life.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I do have to admit that because of a lot of the things that he has done, it did color my impression initially. But then again, Gertie isn't the main character. Gertie has a prominent role, but he isn't the main character. The Sams are the main character.
Yeah, and I do think it is funny that he has his little faces that he communicates with.
Yeah. If you had sent a person into space and their only communication was a robot and the faces you gave him were basically like the world's most basic emojis, oh, I would feel so bad for that guy trapped up there with smiley face, concerned face,
thinking face.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Very few. And every time he was thinking, I was like, what's he really thinking about?
Yeah. Because, it was a very interesting take because, when I say interesting take, because, again, I was expecting all of the robot tropes.
Mm-hmm.
That he is undermining everything that Sam was going to be trying to do. But instead, everything that Sam had ended up trying to do, where it worked against the corporation's best interests, the one being that consistently helped him towards it was Gertie, which I was pleasantly surprised by that.
I agree, yeah. I think that actually worked out pretty well.
Regardless of who voiced him.
Yes. So if you ignore that part, everything's pretty much smooth there.
Yeah.
There was a few things I loved.
Mm-hmm.
In watching it this week, I was trying to figure out what were the things that I loved about this movie. Because unfortunately, I don't think it's as tangible as I would like. It's not like, well, I loved it because of this scene or I loved it because of this scene. I mean, there was a few fun things. I think one of the things I loved is just the whole solo actor aspect of this, right?
Huh.
I think at some point we should probably talk about Castaway, but that's another one of my favorite movies. Like, one person upholding the whole movie and doing it well.
Now, that being said, for me, maybe because I saw it first, but I felt like The Martian did that as well. But I mean, but they also have a lot of side characters when they go back to Earth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But like when he's on the planet, it is him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where things get a little, in my mind, I'm like, but Martian did it as well.
Yeah, I think Castaway, it was mostly him. I think this one and Castaway have the most screen time with only one actor.
Yeah.
I mean, even in this one, he never interacts with anyone
aside from
but himself. Right. I mean, only through video does he interact with other people. Or Gertie, I guess.
And a couple of times when he's having hallucinations.
Yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I think I like that. The skill that's involved, but not only the skill of the actor, I mean, it has to be a good script. There has to be a whole bunch of things that work together to make that work well. And the actor is definitely an important piece of that, but it's not just him. There's a lot involved.
Actually, now that I think about it, you have suggested a lot of movies where there is a significant portion of the movie where it's just one actor dealing with themselves. I never really thought about that. Huh.
I guess so.
I mean, what's the first movie we did anything on?
Passengers, you're right. Passengers. Mm-hmm.
So.
Edge of Tomorrow, I guess you could say that in some ways about that one too.
Mm-hmm. There's a number of movies that we've talked about, especially the ones that you have suggested where they are significant periods of time where there is one actor dealing with themselves for a significant period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I never thought about that.
It's another one of those.
That makes sense now.
I like that kind of thing, I guess. And this movie pulls it off well, too, right?
Yeah, I thought it did that very well.
I did think it was funny that he has his shirts. He's got his whole bag that he packed. And they must have replicated that and kept it down there. So one of the things I was thinking was there must have been a first Sam, right? There must have been a Sam. The real Sam must have come first, done whatever length of time they... Actually, I think it must have to have been 3 years.
Gertie did say at one point that when he's talking about the memories, they were planted from the real Sam, is what he said.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they had all those recorded messages, which the first Sam all received.
Yeah. So probably you are right that the first Sam had been up there.
Mm-hmm.
Which then means, did he sign a waiver to allow his genetic material to be reproduced this way?
Yep, that's one of my questions. Does he know that this is happening? Or did Sam not even know? Did the company just do this? Because they trained one guy and then just copied him in his fake little accident that he had. When he first landed, it wasn't really an accident. They just knocked him out and copied him.
Yeah.
And then let him do his 3 years. And then made a whole bunch of copies down in the basement and then stored them there.
Mm-hmm.
So that Gertie could wake them up over time.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking it was. I have some questions about that because they do call him Sam number 6.
Yeah.
When he's back on Earth. So that must mean there were 5 of them. Lisa says she's 15 years old, though.
Which, here's the other option. The original Sam they could refer to as Sam 1.
Yes, that's what I think. I think they must refer to the first Sam 1. So the first clone is Sam 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only way because we're at the end of Sam 5's time,
mm-hmm.
which means that, yeah, it's been 15 years since the beginning of Sam 1,
mm-hmm.
which makes Lisa's timeline work well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. That's very interesting.
Yeah. I will say that the world that they've built is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because, okay, so we are taking things that we see in normal business practices and drawing them to a terrible but obvious conclusion based upon what we see in society now.
Mm-hmm. Right, because it's better to have a human up there because a human will make choices and do things a computer can't do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's too expensive to keep sending a human up. Although I do wonder that because I would assume that the machines break down and they have to keep sending that rescue team in every once in a while to fix the machines. Or is Sam fixing the machines all the time? I guess the question is, how much are they really saving on fuel sending a guy. But I guess it's not just fuel because they're saving on training. They're saving on everything.
Mm-hmm. Here's the other side of things. If they knew that they were going to do this, would it be so hard? I know it's going to cost more money, but would it have been so hard to, just copy 2 people rather than just 1?
Yeah, it's not a bad point.
Because, what would keep a man from going insane if he had even 1 person he could talk to?
Yeah, but then what if they don't both die at the same time?
Based on how it seemed that they were genetically programmed to, at the end of 3 years, to start to break down.
Yes, well, I wonder that too. Now, I haven't read up on this, but it did seem like it's radiation poisoning symptoms. I don't know if that's exactly true or not. Again, my knowledge of radiation poisoning symptoms is TV, so we should probably take that with a grain of salt. But
even if not, it seemed also that it could have been just, hey, in our cloning process, we tweaked something so that they've only got a shelf life of about 3 years.
Well, one of my questions too was, is Gertie poisoning him? But I guess not, because he's got packets though, right? So yeah. Probably not. Probably it is more of a time bomb within themselves.
Yeah. Which, think about it that way. Yeah, he escaped to Earth, but if he's still a time bomb, that still means that 3 years are going to pass. So how he spends those 3 years have probably got to be super important to him. And so how does he spend his 3 years? Taking down the machine that created him.
Probably. Well, actually, one of the interesting things there too is the very last caller is calling number 6, right? He's saying he's an illegal alien or he's lying, and either way he should be locked up, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Which I think is very interesting that that's the last message, right? Because that is saying, again, it's reinforcing what this movie is like. Look, we receive stuff all the time that probably somebody suffered to give us, right? Whether it's coffee or electricity or clothing, shoes, right? We receive stuff all the time, and we don't know at all what it cost somebody else to get it to us.
Yeah.
And this guy's willing to say, no, this guy's lying. I want my energy just as easily as it is to get, right? Which is, I walk into the store and I want my clothes just as cheap as I can get them.
And it doesn't matter how many people have been exploited through various sweatshops and whatnot.
Right. How many people had to work 12 hours days to get my shirt to be, 1,000 yen, 1,500 yen, whatever.
12-hour days for 10 cents an hour.
There's probably a lot of that I just don't even know, right? It's definitely short-sighted of that guy, and it's short-sighted of me not to realize this probably, but
I think the big one that I see prevalent in my life is how much I support Amazon.
Yeah.
And yet I also see the sort of things that Amazon does to its workers. I see it. And yet, do I stop buying things from Amazon? I'd like to say that I did. But Amazon Prime has its hooks in me.
Yep, we are choosing often for this stuff. So, of course it's wrong to treat a person like this, but of course we think it's wrong to treat Amazon workers the way they're treating them, but yeah.
And how do we change what, for example, Amazon is doing to its workers? Will they listen if we complain? No. They will listen only if we stop buying from them. The moment they feel the pain of the loss of money, but it would have to come from a vast swath of people. And I don't believe strongly enough in a collective, united force of everybody doing what's right for somebody else. Because I'm a cynic.
And I wish it would be as easy to say like, oh, just charge me $3 more and that driver will get paid better. And I'll be like, oh, sure, fine. But of course, even if like a checkbox that says pay $3 more for this and your driver will get paid properly, like that's just a horrible checkbox to include in the site. So it's not like, you're right.
That comes down to the same idea as tips.
Yes, you're right.
The customer shouldn't be expected to make sure that a waiter or a waitress has a way to survive. That should be on their employer. Their employer should be responsible for that. But the only way that changes is one of two ways. If you believe in the free market, it is that the collective force of humanity will basically rise up and say, this isn't right, so we're going to stop buying from you. I don't see that happening. The other way it happens is if there is force from some sort of government organization.
Yeah, regulation.
Regulation.
Or at least some other, at least accrediting body or something like that.
Somebody with some sort of power, some sort of regulation power.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not see a regulatory board stepping in and saying, hey, your warehouse workers should be allowed to pee.
Mm-hmm. Whenever they need to.
Sorry. It's because a lot of time warehouse workers do not have time to go to use the restroom. And the sad thing is I acknowledge this. I know this. And yet, did I order something from Amazon not like 2 weeks ago? Yes, I did.
It's a problem in 2009 as it is a problem today. But anyway, I think those are the two big reasons. I like the solo actor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the message is good too, but I think the other big thing I liked about it is the mystery involved, right? The mystery they're trying to solve of who are you? Are you really a clone? I do like that one of them got it quicker than the other, even though they're the same. I do wonder what the differences between the clones are. Like, I think that was funny that they're kind of testing for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that Sam number 5 must have had the whole delirious gene, while the other ones probably didn't have that.
Mm.
Although I do think it's funny that he's dreaming of his daughter in her 15-year-old state. But yeah, how does he know that? But anyway.
Yeah, that I don't know. I think that might have been, they only had so many actors they wanted to hire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, one of the other things I did like was I did love the miniatures of the moon buggies and gadgets and things.
Mm.
I thought that was quite nice. The rovers and the harvesters and even the space station itself were pretty cool miniatures that they created.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed. I actually watched a YouTube feature on that after I finished the movie the other day. So you can see the guy talking about the miniatures he created for the movie. So that was quite fun.
Yeah. Well, all in all, I thought it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very interesting take on certain things. I'm trying to see where I would rank it in my brain among other movies. Would I watch it again? Yes. Full stop. Yeah, I would watch it again. Would I rank it on top movies of all time for me? Maybe not. But I think that probably has to do with the fact that some of the things that they did, I feel like a lot of other movies I've seen have done similar things. Do I think that it did it well? Yes, I do. So I guess it's the fact that I hold the section of movies in my brain where I'm like, this is one of the best movies of all time. I hold that pretty exclusive. Mm-hmm. I think that's partly why I'm having trouble saying if I would put it in that category, because that's a very exclusive group for me. So I would say it's good, but I would not put it in that exclusive group for me.
I think for me, this is either, and I think it's leaning more toward this, I think it's probably on the very bottom end of that group for me. Like, this is one of the ones that I really like. So I think it's kind of, at the bottom end of the best movies of all time, or at the very top end of the group that's just outside of that, right? So I think it's one of those.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure which one, but one of those.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I would include it in one of my, this is a good movie category. I would watch it again. I don't know how regularly I would watch it, but I thought it was a good movie that had a very interesting world-building premise, and I thought it was well done where you had one actor working with themselves a lot. I thought that whole premise was very well done. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know if I could quite put it in that category for me, because it just, I don't know. I think it was good, but I don't think it was to the point where I would find it like exceedingly great. I'm trying to figure out why, though. I think for me, I don't know.
Well, one of the things I think is, I think this movie might not be excellently written, perhaps. To me, I think it's good, but I think to me, the whole solo actor thing covers over a few sins for me.
I think you're hitting on something that it is for me. I think you are right that it is well acted. It is very well acted. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, it is that it's not as well written as the other ones that I think of when I think of solo actors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think of Castaway, and I think that was better written. And that's the sort of thing for me, is like, if I'm thinking of these things, I think it's the writing. That's it. I think it is. I think it's the writing, the pace in which the story is developed, the way in which the world is revealed. I think it's a very interesting take. I like the sci-fi aspect of it. I really do. I just think that it could have been a bit stronger.
Right. It's good, perhaps not excellent.
And that's exactly where I land on it. It's good, not excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to avoid... So I'm just thinking back on the things that we've talked about a lot lately, because, like, in my mind, I'm going, okay, so you remember several episodes ago when we read The Giver, where I was kind of meh on the book. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's about the same kind of feeling for me, where it's like, it's good, but it's not sublime for me. I think that's the thing, is it's good, but it's not sublime.
Yeah, and I think for me, the solo actor part of it is covering over a few sins. I like that so much that that's covering over a few sins.
Mm-hmm. And for me, like, I go, yeah, it's interesting. I like what they're doing here. It just doesn't quite hit all the notes that I'm looking for. Yeah. Like I said, I thought it was good. I'm glad to have experienced this movie. And would I watch it again? Yes. I would definitely watch it again. Would I consider it one of my favorite movies of all time? Not quite. I did really enjoy it.
I'm glad you've experienced it.
Thank you. Thank you for showing it to me.
So, Ryan, what do you have for me next week?
Next week, well, let me tell you while I look it up. Yeah. Of course. Next week, I am going to have you read book 2 of the Mistborn series. So back in January, I had you read the first book in the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. Well, I'm going to have you read book 2, Well of Ascension.
Well, and technically, because this is a 28-hour audiobook, I have already started.
Details.
So that I could finish in time. Very excited to be talking about it next time. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it is the second book, so I hope it answers all my questions, right, Ryan?
Oh, it will answer some of your questions and leave you with more questions.
Oh, good. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Because guess what? There's a book 3.
And a second series. So
yeah. Well, most of the questions that are embodied in this first series are mostly wrapped up by the end of book 3, leaving some trails that can be gone down with for the second series. But you know what? You will find conclusion with the third book.
Good. Sounds good. Well, I am very much excited to finish this book up.
All right. Well, let's talk about it on our next episode then. Well, we do hope you found something nice about this hill that we're willing to die on. And we do appreciate all of our listeners coming along on this journey with us. And if you ever thought to yourself, hey, I really like these guys and what they do, and I wish there was just some way I could support them. Well, you can. Please visit myhilltodieon.com/members for more details. But know that the conversation doesn't have to end here. The discussion can continue with us through Reddit at r/myhilltodieon, or by contacting us through Twitter at myhilltodieon. Or you can reach us by email, which is, to no one's surprise, myhilltodieon@gmail.com. And finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which is also named, say it with me now, folks, My Hill to Die On. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Here, let me just show you something. I'm going to turn on my video real quick, just so I can show you this monstrosity.
Okay.
This
it's your tin of Kit Kats.
Is my tin of Kit Kats. That's all I wanted to show you was this. I probably could have just taken a picture. It is to the point where if I try to put one more batch of Kit Kats in there, it will overflow.
I saw mint Kit Kats at the store today.
You could have picked them up.
I know.
I wouldn't have said no.
Well, they probably are good, so.
Well, that's why we got the pudding ones.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I just wanted to show you that I don't think you have to stare at my face for the rest of the time, so I will turn off the camera. If I could get to where I needed to get to without flying, I would take it every time. And for some crazy reason, people say that I really shouldn't take a boat back to America every summer.
Well, it would take 2 weeks.
Just because it would take most of the summer just to get there.
I've only heard the stories of people talking about it in the good old days, but
In the good old days.
you want to, of course, take a boat that's huge because you don't want the seasickness.
Actually, the funny thing is, I've been on several boats, never gotten seasick.
Oh, okay, really?
Yeah, I have not gotten seasick. And I don't get it. I don't get why I am so comfortable on a boat, but I hate being in the air.
Mm.
I mean, I have thought through why it is, and none of them are logical reasons. They're good reasons. They're just not logical reasons. What can you do? All I really need at this point is, Nate, I need you to invent me a teleporter.
Yeah, well, that is what we need. You are correct.
Although then you have the other problem. Is it really me that comes out on the other end?
Yep. Well, I was always thinking, in Star Trek world lore,
Yeah.
why in the world do they live near where they work? If you had a transporter, you could beam to South America, have a nice, house on the cliff, and then beam into work in the morning.
You could. Yeah, you could. There's nothing holding you back from that.
There seems to be questions on how much energy a transporter actually takes. That's not really answered.
In a post-capitalistic society, then does it really matter? It was fulfilling. Oh, sorry, one second. I gotta stop motioning with my hands. Well, we do hope you found something nice about this hill that we're willing to die on. And we appreciate all... Oh.
Keeping that in. Gonna be okay over there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like I had put way too much roll on a couple of words, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I've got a dry throat now. Like I've been talking for a while or something.
3 hours, yeah.
Details. Yeah, I've talked for 3 hours so that we get our solid 1 hour and a half of decent stuff. Actually, we could probably get 2 hours of decent stuff, but nobody wants to sit through 2 hours.
Yeah.
Probably. I'm sure we can find a few people who would.
Some people maybe.
As I have said many times, I don't like flying.